Who are the artists who inspire you?
Uh, Currently, Peter Doig. I went to that Peter Doig exhibition in the Serpentine. I mean, I have a real thing about art. I sort of hate it in a lot of ways because I find it so fucking pretentious, but I can't believe I went to see the Peter Doig thing in the Serpentine the other day and I started crying like at 11 o'clock on a fucking Sunday morning. I don't know what it was. There was something about a picture, and also it was playing music with it as well. So, and it was empty, and I just stood in this room, and I started to cry. And so, I don't know what that is, but I certainly know that, like, you know, of any artist, living or dead, he's the person that sort of speaks to me the most. But it was mad. I was walking my dog in fucking Hyde Park, and I wanted to go into that exhibition, but it was busy. You know, it was quite busy. And anyway, I just found a time where it was empty, slipped in there, and I can't believe how the experience of like some old vinyl. I don't know. It was like, I don't know what sort of record it was playing, but it was like, anyway, it was amazing. But generally, I fucking hate art. I mean, just because of not because of the pictures, but like the whole sort of deity around it. I really struggle with it. You know, I struggle with kind of people sitting there fucking pontificating, a bit like I'm doing now, actually, pontificating about how kind of amazing something is. And but as people that know about art always say to me, it's just about your reaction to the picture. You've got to ignore all the people around you. You've got to ignore the space and just see, does it speak to you or not? And, you know, Doig, I mean, Freud speaks to me, you know, some of his early portraits and stuff, obviously. But he's the dude, man, Doig.
What is your unrealized project?
Well, I'm an unrealized project, I suppose, but film-wise, well, I'm in the process of starting a script story for a film, which is a very sort of personal film about me and my mum in the 80s, my mum being in the CND, which was the campaign for nuclear disarmament, me sort of rejecting all of that and becoming a kind of feral rat. And so it's really a sort of story about me and my mum, which is probably going to be a movie that very few people are ever going to see. It's going to be a complete fucking mad folly. But I feel very sort of compelled to tell that story. So I'm sort of writing that at the moment. The thing that's sort of contemporary about it is the sort of the rejection of peace for a kind of a different sort of tribe. So it's all about, you know, it's about tribes really. And my mum, because of where she came from, she was looking for a sort of very peaceful feminist tribe because of her experiences. And that didn't feel safe to me. As a sort of 12-year-old, that felt very unsafe to me. So I completely rejected that and went in did a 180 jackknife into something which was kind of aggressive and violent. And so the story is about me and my mum going through that and then sort of finding some kind of common ground at the end and finding, you know, obviously in a film sense, a kind of redemptive kind of moment at the end.
Do you have rituals?
I mean, yes. I've got fucking chronic OCD. I've got 800 different rituals. My rituals are, I do breathing exercise every morning, just to open my lungs up, get some life into me. Fortunate enough, I've got a cold plunge in my garden, so I do 4 minutes in my cold plunge every morning at 6 degrees, and I pray for 4 minutes while I'm in the cold plunge, and then I go upstairs and do 100 press-ups, 2-minute plank, 8 cups of coffee, and I'm ready for my day. That's my morning ritual. It's not my lunch ritual, my afternoon ritual, my evening ritual, obviously. I try and sort of not get too. When I was younger, I was really caught up in rituals and sort of mantras and codes and literally kind of obsessive cleaning and everything. And I think part of getting older is about like trying to live a bit freer than that. Do you know what I mean? Because I found that when I was like really driven by rituals, I didn't have a lot of time for much else. I lived in a studio flat. It'd take me an hour to get out of there because I had so many sort of rituals. I lock the door, go back 3 times, hit the latch, you know, clean the floor, kind of make sure the windows are locked, go back, did I lock the window? You know, I was obsessive when I was younger, which I think kind of weirdly helps in terms of work, you know, because you get very sort of myopic. But in terms of like being a free human being, living by rituals is tough.
What music are you listening to?
Kind of music. Kind of music is it's a trio of German DJs who started out very underground, as they all do, and I was listening to them right back in the day, and they were playing at like, my mate's got a club called DC10 in Ibiza. They were playing at DC10, small sort of crowds and everything, and they've now become huge kind of music. You know, they play to sort of 60,000 people, and they're kind of like, I mean, but they're still really good. So it's called kind of music, and in German that means no music. So it's a kind of, you know, and they were cool kind of collective of DJs. It's kind of house music, but not heavy.
What achievements of yours are you especially proud of?
I am proud of being sober. I've been sober for a long time, and that's definitely a big sort of central part of my life. Without being sober and clean, like nothing else can really happen in my life. And so I've been sober for nearly 39 years, and it's a really big deal for me. So that's a big achievement. I'm really pleased. I'm really proud of making films for working class entertainment. That's a big thing for me as well. You know, making stuff that working class people want to see rather than films about working classes that they don't want to watch. That feels like a big achievement for me. So they're two big achievements. The film and television industry is driven by sort of, you know, Oxbridge educated people that think they know what working class people want to watch. And so what happens is they make sort of films about them, which are mostly stereotypical and patronising, and without naming any names. But there are a few filmmakers, and I would say I'm one of them. Shane Meadows is another one, who is really interested in the working class experience. And just want, I mean, for me, it's just, I just want to make films that, it's a bit like, my mantra is I'm making films that my mates would want to watch, not what BAFTA wants to watch, or not what, you know, the Guardian wants to watch. It's like, what do my mates want? If they like them as well, then that's great. But for me, primarily, it's making films that people where I come from would go, yeah, that's my idea of good entertainment.
What sports do you play?
Boxing and table tennis. I played table tennis. I actually played at a club when I was younger, so I got to quite a good level, and then stopped when I got into boxing, and I've been boxing for 20 years. But weirdly, I've just started picking up table tennis again, and I'm playing at this club in Ladbroke Grove, and so you know, I know that guy's like a world table tennis champion. And in fact, Robert from Stone Island said to me last night, oh, let's get a table and you can play. And I was like, dude, it'll fucking last about 30 seconds if me and him play, because I'm shit.
What's the most recent thing you made?
I made a film last year, which is in the festival at Berlin, actually, next weekend. And that is it's a story about two boys that fall in love with each other in a young offenders institution. So it's dealing with sexuality, masculinity in a very, very tough environment. And so that was the last film. I mean, I wrote that and produced it.
What is your preferred mode of transport?
Bicycle. Yeah, I'm an absolute fiend for a Brompton. I love Bromptons. And in fact, I would have cycled here this morning, but I just thought, fuck it. But I'm an all-weather cyclist, so I will happily I just can't bear sitting in cabs and trains, and if you can help it, I'd rather always be on my bicycle sort of flying around. To me, it's like the ultimate freedom, a bicycle. Particularly at Brompton, because you can actually carry them upstairs into rooms, so you're not even locking them up. It's like literally it goes everywhere with you.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
I sort of misread the question. I was asked it by someone in a sort of sobriety sense, not just in a general sense. Someone who's, you know, I know, who's a sort of young guy who got sober, got clean, and he said to me, what would you say to younger Nick? And I said to him, I would take this seriously. I would treat it as a proper thing. Do you know what I mean? Don't sort of be ambivalent towards it, and take it seriously, because like if you've got a problem with drink or drugs, it's going to be the bedrock of your life. Like you're going to be defined by how your ability or inability to deal with it.
What type of movies do you like?
Well, entertaining. But you know, the thing is all or any. I mean, Like the idea that a filmmaker doesn't enjoy films. I mean, some people say, I bet you don't like going to the cinema. So I like nothing more than going to the cinema. But I can love, obviously, I mean, I can love really, really commercial stuff like Top Gun or whatever, but I can equally love Frederick Wiseman, who was the sort of godfather of direct cinema, which was a sort of weird documentary style in the 60s in America. You know, I love art films. So it's like I can love anything, do you know what I mean? I mean, I've just got an open mind to it, really. Oh, I love Marty Supreme. Right, table tennis as well, but I just thought it was really exuberant and joyful filmmaking, and I have found that a lot of, particularly films that are in the kind of the awards arena, they're normally quite sort of mournful and sad, and you know, there's a kind of introspection, whereas, you know, generally speaking, commercial films are seen as a kind of lower art, and so therefore there's not much of a correlation between joy and BAFTA Oscar films. But I found Marty Supreme to be joyful, and I remember sitting there watching it. Within 5 minutes, I turned around to the person I was with and I said, I fucking love this film.
What is self-care to you?
People. I think to be part of, you know, a community or a tribe or whatever it is, I think that I sort of feel like that's the ultimate self-care, is being connected to other human beings. I mean, there's obviously all the stuff about physical care and taking care of yourself and sort of spiritual care and everything, but I think, you know, when things aren't working out, the thing that I want more than anything, well, weirdly, you know, if things aren't working out for me, I tend to feel ashamed that they're not working out, and my natural desire is to sort of pull away and lick my wounds quietly. But actually what I need is the polar opposite to that. What I need is to be around people. I mean, a very specific tribe for me is Narcotics Anonymous. You know, that's my tribe. That's been my tribe ever since I was a teenager. But I don't think it's just that. You know, I've got, you know, I mean, in a way, you know, Millwall's my tribe as well. You know, it's like I've got a very strong connection to that club, and lots of people there I know well, and so that's a real tribe for me. Then I've got friends that are neither of those. You know, you don't have to be sort of in NA or at Millwall to be part of the, you know, but I just feel like human beings were meant to sort of be with each other. There's actually a really good book that I read recently by a guy called Sebastian Junger, and it's called Tribe. And he basically talks about kind of Western civilization being so much less tribal than other civilizations and cultures, and because we've become so sort of capitalist minded, and because of that we've become quite isolationist and quite sort of self-absorbed, whereas the best kind of like social structures in the world are things like the nomad tribes and Navajo tribes, where they have incredibly strong communities. I mean, see, it's easy to sort of talk about that stuff. It's much harder to sort of to live by, obviously, because we don't live in a Navajo tribe, you know. But I see what I took from that book was like the importance of community.
What do you want to be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered for being decent, you know, for being kind. I mean, when I was younger, I thought I want to be remembered for being, you know, a kind of important filmmaker and all that sort of stuff. But as I'm getting older, I'm thinking more about like, what's on your fucking gravestone, baby? And what I would love on my gravestone is like, he was a kind, decent friend.